Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Would everybody join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Uh, Let the record show that Selectman Bob Belden, Selectwoman Tara Carr, and Steve Dunn are in present. Do we have public comment, Cynthia?
Pam Krause, 2 Cove Road. Good evening. As to the expansion of the compressor station, a very recent quote from Iroquois. Iroquois is one of the town's top taxpayers, generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax revenues annually. The project is estimated to generate an additional $2.4 million in annual tax revenues to the town. No doubt doubting hundreds of thousands in tax revenue on the current facility annually as we checked, although it is significantly annually reduced in depreciation. If you assume 18,000 population and around 400,000 in taxes, we're now talking about $22 a person in tax revenues. Keep in mind, the discharges from the depreciated equipment does not get reduced annually and may increase over time with equipment deterioration, maybe 50 years. So, 2 new shiny compressors will certainly be of interest to those responsible for the town budget. Lots of debits get offset by an alleged $2.4 million. After all, the current revenues from Iroquois is less than 1% of the budget, so the 2.4 really helps, doesn't it? And who knows, Iroquois might just throw in some extras, except one big problem: risk. Health and safety risks to residents and, most importantly, children. So in a typical cost-benefit analysis, Iroquois generates non-quantifiable costs in health and safety. That is hard to visualize, but benefits, that alleged $2.4 million, is tempting wherever that number comes from. No doubt it was shared. This all leads to a question. What are the residents and children worth in, dollars and cents? Yep, a hard one to answer, especially when dealing with long-term health consequences. Then again, later these children may not be able to link future maladies like lung issues, malignancies, all the issues defined in the report, potential impacts of expanded Iroquois compressor station in Brookfield, Connecticut, produced through Sierra Club and authored by public health experts. So maybe you can bury the inconvenient truth along with Iroquois. Like what Kimberly-Clark, Monsanto, Dow, DuPont, GE, and all the others have done. Let's be clear, these companies are not primarily in business as polluters. It's just that it's part of their cost of doing business. I know this. I know over years I represented polluters in many sectors like waste management, Ryder, Raycal, Marriott, Federated Department Stores. How do you stop pollution? Regulation and objections. The health study is being presented in the Brookfield Library September 23rd at 6:30.
Thank you.
What is being presented? I missed that.
The health study.
Okay.
Yeah, the authors are actually presenting it. So if you have questions, that's the time.
Who's
Thank you,
hosting
Pam.
that?
Yep.
Who's hosting that event?
Sierra Club.
Good evening. My name is Eric Myers. I live at 2 Cove Road, which is in the Barkwood Hills section of Brookfield. I see that item number 7A is an update on the Homeland Tower's proposed cell phone tower. The cell coverage maps that were included as part of the exhibits with that, they show the deficient service in the area, which has been corroborated by a number of your emergency responders over the last number of BOS meetings. So I hope you have all the information you need to make a decision on whether or not you want to lease town property for the tower or let a private property owner site the tower, on their property. I was disappointed to see there was not an action item tonight. I would request and hope that a decision by the board at the next meeting can be made so that Homeland Towers can start the process of constructing a tower for use by the various cell phone companies to remedy the service deficiency in the Barkwood Hills area. The second item I'd like to comment on is item 7B, the Iroquois Pipeline. You signed letters of objection to the governor and the commissioner of DEEP on the May 15th, 2024 special hearing, according to my records and notes. That was about 3.5 months ago. At the last BOS meeting, we were told there would be a meeting scheduled with a DEEP, or there was a meeting scheduled with a DEEP representative on August 20th. There are rumors that the meeting was postponed. Hopefully this can be addressed in tonight's update. And at the August BOS meeting, you acknowledged that you had received a report prepared by the consultants for the Sierra Club, which is the same one that Pam mentioned previously, titled Potential Impacts of the Expanded Iroquois Compressor Station in Brookfield, Connecticut. This report focuses on the combustion products released from the 2 new gas turbines proposed by Iroquois at the existing compressor station. When you read it, if you get a chance to, hopefully, you will see it's a very technical document to help elected officials and interested citizens understand it. And ask questions. The Sierra Club has kindly made the authors of the study available for a presentation and questions at the Brookfield Library, 6:30 p.m. on September 23rd. I hope you can find time to attend and ask any questions you may have regarding the study. A couple of things that I would point out that Iroquois stated in the meeting that I attended earlier is the methane, roughly 97 to 98% of natural gas, is lighter and more buoyant than air and dissipates harmlessly to the atmosphere, at least as far as human health. And I'm not going to get into climate change issues here. There's probably some truth to this regarding methane based on the physics of everything, which is released during blowdowns and leaks. However, these discharges are minimized to the greatest extent possible, since methane is the valuable product being moved through the pipeline. The vast majority of the proposed expansion are combustion products from 2 new gas turbines, which will be running on almost constantly. So again, I hope that you guys, if you feel the need to meet with Iroquois over your written objections to negotiate, that that you will, familiarize yourself with the Sierra study. And if the other alternative I see is if you can have people on your side with some relevant technical and legal experiences, because remember, the objection letter was written for you. And at a minimum, substituting electric motor-driven compressors for gas turbine compressors eliminates all combustion drive discharges for the new compressors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. J.P. Karpewski, 1 Hamlin Court, Brookfield. I'm just here to voice opposition to installation of any further cell phone towers in our town. Thank you.
Gail Archer.
Hi. Gail Archer, 20 Longmeadow Hill Road. Once again, I thank the board for continuing to work with Homeland Towers and trying to locate an appropriate spot for a cell phone tower. The threat that one might go up in a private parcel would be devastating to my neighbors, but with that, I'm opposed to any of the proposed locations at 62, 45, and 7 Longmeadow Hill Road, and I encourage you to vote no to all of them. I was hoping they could find a remote wooded area that did not impact our protected open space, our schools, and our homes, but that is not the case. Approving any of these sites would really just be robbing from Peter to pay Paul. Peter not only includes the many residents that border these locations, but Peter is also the hundreds of Brookfield residents that enjoy our school property, our courts, fields, trails, streams, wildlife, and green space. These proposed sites are located in densely populated neighborhoods that not only include antique homes that are highlighted and mapped in our current plan of conservation and development, but also homes in and surrounding Brookfield's only historic district. The entrance to Williams Park is actually included in the National Registry of Historic Places. Gursky property and Williams Park are both part of Brookfield's history. Our zoning regulations in regards to towers state that the need to minimize the reduction of property values and minimize the adverse visual effects through careful design. Property values will certainly be affected. The Siting Council is responsible to balance the need for adequate utility service with the need to protect the environment, ecology, and to minimize damage to scenic, historic, and recreational values. They must provide standards for the location and assure the welfare and protection of the people. These are their standards. So by these standards, I don't expect that the Siting Council would even consider any of these properties on Long Meadow Hill Road. I reviewed the response received from the Siting Council, and while the map provided does show the area of inconsistent coverage, they do not refer to or detail the second part of that request, which is what I wanted to ask, which is the analysis of the existing and projected demands for coverage. So that's listed in that statute that you're able to get this information from, but they didn't include that information. So I think that's key. And I wonder if there even is a demand. And did Verizon really ask Homeland, or did Homeland ask Verizon? As a former emergency department nurse, I have the utmost respect for our first responders and their desire to provide the best care to all of our residents. I understand their frustration, and I hope that with the ever-changing advances in technology, that our dedicated EMS will find a quick and satisfying solution to their needs, but one that does not include a new tower. The coverage maps from Homeland Security shows that Bridgewater actually gains a significant increase in coverage, while still many parts of the targeted Brookfield zone would still be lacking. Therefore, I encourage Homeland to consider Bridgewater or southern New Milford for possible sites and to say goodbye to Brookfield residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. That's it. Okay, let's move on. Brookfield Girls, Ron Jaffe. You were going to make a presentation?
What about Greg?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can wait.
I'm sorry.
I can wait.
Greg can wait. Ron, come on up. Yeah, I wanted to do that. Thank you, Greg.
I have one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got one, as you know.
Thank you for having me. Ron Jaffe, I'm with Brookfield Cares,
Your street address, sir.
21 White Pine Drive.
Thank you.
First, special thanks to all those who helped update the guide and improve its contents, including school administration and staff, the town health department, particularly Tracy Cahill, the police department, particularly Officer Heller, Western Connecticut Coalition, and all the members of Brookfield Cares. This is the new edition, the third version of the Parent's Guide to Helping Your Child Succeed. It includes the most recent results of the Student Attitudes and Behavior Survey, which was given in 2022, and we want to again thank the schools for supporting this important effort, and we look forward to discussions on when we can give the survey again. Significant updates have been made to most sections of the guide, including drug safety and disposal, mental health, OCD, eating disorders, and much more. We've added sections on new challenges for young adults, changing schools, and the guide now has a vaping identification chart, and the drug identification section has been updated and expanded. It even includes information on oral nicotine pouches such as Zyn. We've mailed the guide to homes of students, one per household, using the address to parents and guardians of Brookfield Public School students. And the file that was provided to us and the file we provided to the printer only had addresses, not student names, so we did work to protect anonymity. We have also delivered copies to the 3 schools, town education offices, and more. Copies have been given to the Brookfield Library, and the New Vance Health Facility on Federal Road also agreed that this was an important, asset for them to have in their lobby as well, so we thank them for that. The guide will be available, at any event that Brookfield Cares goes to, but the guide is also available as a downloadable PDF on the Brookfield Cares website. So I'm here tonight to present you with copies of the new guide, to thank you for your continued support, and to answer any questions you may have.
Are you going to be going to the BOE meeting?
I already went to the BOE. I talked to the BOE as soon as the printed copies were available, and quite frankly, I wanted to make sure that they were aware of what was going on before it was mailed home, so that if they got phone calls, they knew. So the BOE had advance notice. This is the first Board of Selectmen meeting since the physical copies have been, made available, which is why I'm here now. But I also believe that the superintendent might have included it in information to parents. I can't swear to that, but I'm pretty sure that that happened.
You coordinate with the schools when you collect and do the surveys and everything. You coordinate with them pretty closely.
Absolutely. We can't do it without their approval. We can't do it without their support. We have a very good relationship with the schools, so.
Great. Well, you guys do a lot of good work in town, in my opinion.
The problem with the survey is that it should be opt-in, not opt-out, which should be addressed the next time you decide to do the survey. And I think the schools are still working on the policy.
That's a discussion I don't want to get into tonight.
What's your position on the Brookfield Cares?
My position?
Your role.
My role, I'm just a volunteer. We are in, as you may know, Colette Sturm was chair, and she has moved on to greener pastures in one of the Carolinas, and we are reorganizing. So what we have now is an executive committee that meets on a regular basis. We do not have a chair per se. We have people who are working on various aspects of what CARES needs to do. So we are in transition, but moving forward.
And who funded the pamphlets to be mailed?
The pamphlet, it's funded by a variety of people. Okay, we do get some funding from the town, which we appreciate. We do get, most of our money comes from private donations. We do get grants. One of the grants that you'll be, approving, later this evening, not approving the grant, but approving the authorization of the first selectman to sign the paperwork, is a state grant to what they call LPCs, local prevention councils. These state grants do not go to town governments. They go to local prevention councils. We are the Brookfield Local Prevention Council. We are, we are affiliated with the Western Connecticut Coalition. I think there are in the neighborhood of 43 towns in Western Connecticut that have local prevention councils. So some of the funding came from there. So it comes from a variety of sources.
And I have one last question. So was this mirrored off of something that pre-existed, or was it created from scratch?
It was the first time we did a guide, which was many, many years ago. We found another town, not in Connecticut, I believe they were in New Jersey, that had done something similar to this, and we asked them for permission to use it as a starting block. They were kind enough to actually give us the file, so we didn't have to create it, kind of the template from scratch. And so, what we do is we make sure that the information is as up-to-date as possible, as accurate as possible, as relevant as possible, to us. And kind of as an aside, we've also just initiated conversations with the Senior Center about doing a guide for seniors. And the senior center is very, very eager to begin conversations on that level. So,
Well, thank you very much. Any further, Bob?
So, one of the questions I've always asked on this, and I didn't have a chance to ask at the Board of Ed meeting because I'm
Sure.
not sitting there to ask you those questions. Engagement with the parents,
yes.
right? Is the school giving you opportunities to actually sit down with groups of parents to actually walk through what you've learned and why, or do they just get their information through this booklet?
We are certainly available. We are, Brookfield Cares will be physically at all of the back-to-school presentations. We will be part of the conversation at Wisconsin Middle School, so we will actually make a conversation, make a presentation there. But
Are they doing a freshman forum this year? Do you know?
there will be a freshman forum.
When are you on the agenda?
I hope so. But we are as available as as we can be, and we certainly look forward to any conversations we can have with the parent community. We do know that having conversations with parents is something we need to continue to spend time on.
Yeah. I think that opens eyes.
Absolutely.
To tell you the truth.
What has been, you've been doing this for a number of years, what's been your reaction from parents on this?
Pretty phenomenal across the board. One of my favorite memories is, going to, center school, talking to parents, and why am I here talking about these kinds of issues? It's because it's coming, and you need to know that these kinds of issues are going to be, things that your children will be dealing with, but also you need to be aware that when your child goes to the home of another child, these issues might be going on there. And so things to look for, things to be aware of. Years later, a woman approached me at another event and said, "You don't know who I am, but I was at one of those presentations and I can't thank you enough." And so I get that kind of response, but we just get basically good reactions.
Great, thank you. Any further questions for Ron?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, appreciate it. Now, Greg, lots of presentation.
Good evening. So I thought I'd start this evening by just a little overview on what we've been calling for 4 years now, the Town Hall Campus Master Plan. As we thought about this idea coming up on 4 years ago, we looked at and came across and thought about what is our long-term vision for the Town Hall campus. And even before ball courts were something in our radar, we came up with a plan to basically enhance and upgrade the Town Hall campus. With the pickleball court concept, that became phase 1. It's now under construction. We'll be pouring concrete on Thursday. Phase 2 is what this grant application is about, and that's an extension of the Still River Greenway Trail and paving the parking lot on Pocono Road just north of the fire station. Phase 3, as we define it now, is a major upgrade of the amphitheater, and I'm thinking STEEP 2024 would be a perfect grant application for that. It certainly is not LOTSIP eligible. So that's kind of the 3-phase approach as we sit here today. Obviously, it's a visionary idea. It can develop over time. Past efforts, the first 3 routes for this trail extension were presented in February to the Board of Selectmen. We then applied for a couple grants, both of which we were not awarded in 2020 and 2021. The timeline for this particular grant is that it will go in front of the COG at Steve's meeting in September. It'll be reviewed, hopefully approved. Then we can schedule a special town meeting. Once that's approved, we'll go for DOT approval. And then once that's approved, we would then go out to a bid for a design engineering. Other activities, I know when I listen to Board of Finance meetings and we talk about Jay Annis was here last month, he talked about the Still River Greenway. There's a lot of different things going on. So this is a new twist to the Still River Greenway extension, if you will. But in the past, we've had ARPA funded money. Marcia can tell you all about that. We've done previous other presentations to the Board of Selectmen back in February 23. And you've also heard about the $5.7 million raise grant, of which we're going to contribute 32 grand to extend the Still River Greenway from our northern terminus to New Milford and south to Danbury. So that's kind of a big picture on the Still River Greenway Trail. This particular application is now in front of you. I won't read every word. This is a cover page. I will notice on the top of this page, this is a LOTSIP application. This is not the DOT application. Getting LOTSIP money is 2 steps. We got to go through the COG, and then we go to the DOT. The deeper we go, the more information they require. So this is the LOTSIP application that I would like to submit. We'll just scroll through this. Right, if you go back to the dollars, sorry. We're looking for $1.89 million. And let me just describe what that money is. It's basically going to be trails looping around all the sports fields, connecting to the Still River Greenway Trail behind the police station, coming up through the woods, and then ending at the parking lot on Pocono Road that we would pave, add some storm drains, and ADA parking. This project also includes things like bleachers on the sports fields, and that's we would light the parking lot. I think we're planning for 6 lights, so it'd be lit at night like this parking lot is. So that's 1.89 million. The 120,000 is a high-end estimate for engineering design and my time. Like for every capital project, my time gets allocated out to capital projects. And this is my estimation on the high end for engineering design and my time for this project. We would design this project in February. We would finish that design in July. And probably because we would miss the construction season, go out to bid and do construction in the spring of 26. Okay, going down there, Cynthia, thank you. That's just a simple, they require a site plan. We all know where Town Hall campus is. Next page. I have to give a description of the project, the needs statement. I described that here. The one thing I will say on the needs, right now there's porta potties behind at the parking lot, the 16 parking spaces behind the police station. This trail would tie into our bathrooms, our public bathrooms down by the amphitheater. We're actually looking to upgrade them with this pickleball court project. We have a meeting tomorrow morning at 8:30 where we are going to, I think we're going to take our $100,000 match portion of the pickleball court project and apply that to upgrading the bathrooms that are there by the amphitheater. So then the trail walkers would have access to better bathroom facilities. Project description, I've already described that to you. You're welcome to read it. Next page, that's obviously from looking north. That's the gravel parking lot that we would upgrade. And then probably can't turn that sideways, but if you could, that's all 3 phases. That's a challenge for you. You probably can't do it, right, Cynthia? Ooh, look at you, you're good. So phase 1, hard to tell, but in the color of red, you really can't see it. You see the 4 pickleball courts to the south end of the multi-use field? That's what's going in now. That's phase 1. So all the trails that get you from the pickleball courts to the parking lot, ADA compliant, are part of the pickleball court project. Phase 2, you look all the way to the north, behind the police station there, and that's a trail coming up through the woods. That's all the loops we would provide, and then we would terminate at the paved parking lot at the very end of that picture, that map. We'd put in some parking facilities. We would actually put brick pavers around the 3 horses. We would enhance that viewing area, if you will, kind of like we did at the Heron Park. We'll make that more of a sitting area. We'll provide bleachers on all the sports fields. And then phase 3 is the amphitheater. The concept there is to have a observation gallery and put seating into the hillside. Conceptual only, we haven't done any engineering work, but that would make it more of an amphitheater and all ADA compliant. So those are the 3 ideas as we have them now. Phase 2, which is, you can barely see it, but phase 2 is on that map, and that's what the $1.9 million will get us. We'll also provide ADA crosswalks. You can see the one going in by the playground is coming in with the pickleball court project. We provide another one with ADA access and an area that you can offload, if you will, to that field just south of the senior center. So again, it's only a concept, but this is what the money we're shooting for. One closing comment, if I can. This is a LOTSIP grant application. LOTSIP allows for trails and street projects. We're asking for in this grant application to pave a parking lot and to put in bleacher seating. I'm not sure that's going to get through the COG. If it does, the numbers I propose to you are what I think we should go for in a town meeting. If the COG doesn't approve the full scope as I just described it, we can either take that out of scope or make that part of the town match. So depending on what the COG decides, this project may change in that regard. So just a heads up for you. I think that's what I need tonight, I think, is the last page on this. I need a board, for this application, there's the cost estimate. It's the breakdown of the $1.89 million. I won't go through any of that unless you're dying to. And then the last page is the letter of support. This application, notice, doesn't require a signature of anybody. This is an application coming under my name, but they do require a letter of support from the Board of Selectmen. So we're not guaranteeing, you're not guaranteeing funding. It's a letter, it's a solicitation for a bid, or to go out, to go for a LOTSIP grant. So Steve doesn't have to sign this. I just need a letter of support. And I drafted that letter right there.
All right, any questions, concerns, issues?
So the parking lot you're paving is the one where the glass recycling is
Yes.
today?
Yes.
Right.
That's up on a hill, and you have to walk down a hill to get to
We'll
it.
make it ADA compliant. We'll have,
Where would the access way go?
it would be to the north end of that parking lot. Right now, there's a fence around something, I don't even know what's there now, maybe Chief Ellis does, but we'd work our way around that and come down just on the backside of the Three Horses, and then work our way into the fields. And we would provide, sorry, Chief, we'd provide also staircases and a little picnic area on the other side of the soccer field. So we're talking about ADA access and a staircase.
Yeah, okay.
The well system. And what happens to the glass recycling facility?
We would figure out a place to put it. Again, we're conceptual. It could still stay there. We might block out an area. We might move it. We haven't got to that level of detail yet. But it would stay. I think it's I use it every other week. I mean, I think.
But it's a mess up there.
Yeah, it needs to be cleaned
There's
up.
glass on the ground, if they're gonna have the paved parking lot, it would be a real mess.
So we would consult with the Housatonic Resource Authority about how the best place to locate that or stage it or do whatever we'd have to do, assuming the town wants to keep it there.
So I noticed the paths go all the way around on the far side of that soccer field toward the recycling area and that. Do we really think people will use that long about section, or are they gonna just be using the stuff that comes up through the town hall?
Well, the idea was if people want to walk on a trail, we have a 3-mile trail now. This gives them more places to walk.
It's a longer walk.
It's a longer walk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 3,300 feet of trail we're adding. Now, again, we can cut any of this back we'd like, but this is the concept, just to have more walking ability. We'll also add home run fences. So in that sports field that's down low, if you look now, there's no home run fence. Our trail's gonna go behind the outfield. We'll make sure it's got a 200-foot, I understand the softball folks want 200 feet. We'll make sure the home run fence is at least 200 feet, and the trail will be behind it.
Yeah, and I think when we originally looked at this, obviously the Still River Greenway is the second most popular in the state, and the parking is abysmal. Not abysmal, there's just not enough of it by the police station. This secondary parking lot was considered, hey, here's where you can park and still get on the Greenway, right? And relieve some of the pressure on the downtown, because we've seen a lot of the parking spaces taken in the downtown.
So the other question I had, you quickly went by it, the trail coming up from where the current police station
Yeah, can you go back to that map, Cynthia? Thank you. And give it a flip.
It's probably fine with that angle. It looks to me like you have a trail going up behind the police station.
Right now it's a gravel trail.
There is a gravel trail there?
Yep. Yeah, see all the way
It's
there?
kind of, it's off to the side, to the
Yeah.
far edge.
There's a
on the
gravel trail there now, but we gotta make it ADA compliant, it's gotta be 8 foot wide, and we're gonna pave it. And if we gotta handle storm runoff, so there might be some swales, whatever, we'd have to make that part of the trail system.
And how, does it still leave room to do construction on that site if the answer is we need to do some healthy construction around the police station?
Well, we're not gonna be on the police station property, we're gonna be in the woods.
No, that looks like it's on the back of their parking lot. That's when I stare at it.
It's down, it's,
Cuts down below the police parking lot into the parking lot for the Greenway.
we will
Doesn't
not, we will
touch
not, yeah, that will not be on, near the police parking lot, I think we're,
It's south of the building.
yeah.
I'm just looking at the purple line going right through the edge of the parking lot, that's all. I'm just looking at your own map, so.
Oh, sorry,
That was my question too.
okay. So, all right, so maybe the dotted
You see
lines
where
aren't
it says
exact.
existing multi-use field, there's a
Yes.
purple line going around the top.
Okay.
And then right around to the edge of the police station parking lot, and then I can't see where it goes from there, but it looks like it goes down there.
Yeah, so I'll move the line, but we're not gonna be anywhere near the police parking lot.
Okay.
Okay, so a comment and a question. I know the master plan has been underway and in conception for a very long time, but I think it's a beautiful vision. And then my question goes back to the home run comment, because we have a beautiful softball field, but we still don't have a baseball field in town. And I know Bob, last year, or the year before, we were talking about turning that multi-use field into a baseball field. So
Yeah,
where are we with that?
Yeah, I don't remember that conversation. This is probably more a question for me. There is $829,000 in the CLES new school budget to take down the portables at Wisconneer and to put in, the plan is a 90-foot field and a 60-foot field. The 90-foot field is really needed because we only have one at the high school, and if it rains there, that field can be kept out of use for 2 or 3 days because of the drainage. The town has just gone out to bid to get quotes on taking down the portables at Wisconneer. We couldn't take the portables down in Wisconneer until all the kids were moved to center school. I was hoping that.
CLES.
Yeah, you're right, CLES. I'm still not used to that name. And we couldn't take those down till the kids were gone. I was hoping it would be done this summer. The town has taken us over. We've just gone out to bid to take down the portables, and then we will go out to bid to get a design to do the baseball fields at Wisconneer. Because our hope is, the original plan was to put a 90-foot at Wisconneer and a 60-foot. There are 2 60s there right now, but we definitely, absolutely need.
But then we're out another 60, so the conversation that I had with Paul Checo and others was to turn that multi-use field into a turf field, which can accommodate several sports,
I haven't had any conversations,
including
nobody.
baseball.
This is, unfortunately, this is the first I've ever heard of that.
Parks and Rec Department knows
Did you
about
hear
it.
anything about that? No,
But that's a great idea.
it's something we can certainly consider, yeah.
You're talking about the one that's right behind the police station? The far left one, not the lower one.
Yeah, a lot of towns are, because they lack space, are
Yeah,
now
yeah.
using like these turf variety fields where you can play all kinds of sports on them. So if we're gonna lose a 60 at Wisconneer, maybe we move one of the 60s onto a turf complex that also has a soccer field, and there's like different lines overlaid on the turf.
Yeah.
It's
we can
quite
look at that.
expensive, but it's
Really
very
expensive.
valuable. And since we've been lacking baseball for
Yeah, no, we
quite
should
some
look at
time,
that.
we.
I'll tell you that where we're looking to put in that trail is right now in the woods, so we'd be clearing some trees. It's not gonna be interfering with, I think, any reasonable
Use of
field
field.
plans, cause we're lower and in the woods. So I don't think you would put any sports fields where we have that trail proposed now to the west end of that existing field.
So you're saying this would not interfere if we decided we wanted to put a 60-foot field, a combo field? This wouldn't interfere?
But I'm saying it would take so much fill and work to fill in that wooded area, to extend
Yeah.
that flat surface, it'd be really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing we should probably consider is if we do move with the police department, whether it's a reconstruction or a new build, I had seen plans where some of the areas might be might have to turn into parking lot or something, so I think we just need to be careful with what it is we're gonna be doing.
Around the police station area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I
I
think
do
that's
too.
yet to be done. So we have to see what that plan looks like and make sure we don't tie our own hands.
So just to be clear, we're gonna tie into the Still River Greenway on an existing gravel trail through the woods, coming in through that bottom area there, and there's no impact on the police station facility.
I can't even see in some of the, there's portions of the renovation rebuild that included going to the west side of the building, but nowhere near where Greg's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought there was gonna be for a new build, there was gonna be a parking lot that came down out here, like straight back.
No, I don't think so. There was a new
Yeah,
build
that's
where
part-
the
yeah.
farmer's market is. There was a design for that.
Well, that was gonna be the structure, but then the parking was gonna come back here. We're gonna, like, you'd extend this back parking lot out. So that grassy area would become parking.
No, no, there's a lot of space
Look
in
at the map.
between the town employee parking lot and the Silvermine house, 63 Silvermine. You're saying you would put parking in there, additional parking in there?
I didn't draw the plan, it shows that there would be parking lots for the
Yeah.
PD where that grassy area is. If you
Yes.
look out the window, it's straight back.
Yeah, so any design would have to take in consideration all these factors. They're good things to consider. Right,
Got it. This is a good plan.
yeah, great. Any further questions for Greg? No?
So letter of support, I'll need Steve.
Yeah, so I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen agree for me to send a letter of support to the Westcog for this project under Lot 6.
I'll
Do
second.
Do I have a second? You're a second? Tara's a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
You.
Greg.
Go ahead with it.
Thanks, Greg.
And that. Okay, announcements. Coffee with the Community will be the 28th at 9 a.m. New time, no, our regular time, at Angel's Deli, located at 470 Federal Road. Please do sign up for Spotlight and Everbridge emergency notifications at the Brookfield CT Gov website. Please follow the Town of Brookfield Emergency Management Facebook page. The Registrar's Office is looking for people to work at the polling locations for the 14 days of early voting and the upcoming November election. These are paid positions, and you would apply at the Registrar's Office, and we're encouraging anyone who would like to assist in the process of democracy to apply. We could use some new people. Bob, would you like to give a quick description of what people would do?
Well, everybody in town has experienced what
Yeah.
happens at a polling place. So it's checking people in, it's handing out the ballots, it's greeting people at the door, and on early voting, it's a long day on the day of an election day. It goes from 5:30 in the morning till about 8:30 at night. We do half days if necessary. Early voting's actually shorter hours, and we have to do it for 14 days in the presidential election. So it will actually start in the third week of October and go from 10 to 6 for most days, and there's 2 days that are designated for 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., but mostly it's 10 to 6.
Great. Thank you. So if anybody's interested, please come to Town Hall and talk to the registrars. We do have vacancies on our boards and commissions, the Art Commission, Building Code of Appeals, Energy Advisory Board, the Farmers Market. We have a number of open positions. We're looking for people who might be willing to take that over from the people who have been doing it now. They've been doing it for many, many years. Inland Wetlands Commission, there is 1 member and 2 alternates. Municipal Building Committee, there is 1 member and 1 alternate open. The Planning Commission has 1 member spot open. Police Building Ad Hoc Committee, we have 7 members. We've had 4 people apply. We're looking for more people to apply because we'd like to fill it out. The WPCA, 1 alternate member. Youth Commission, 2 alternate members. Zoning Board of Appeals, 1 alternate member, and the Zoning Commission, 1 alternate member. Now, we move on to item B, monthly financial update. Marcia?
All right, we are in the process of closing the June 30th, 2024 books with the goal of having that completed by Monday when the auditors arrive. That will give them the closed books and the full financial statement. For June 30th of 2025, the year-to-date, you have an expenditure report in there and a revenue report in your package. We try to do transfers on a quarterly basis at the beginning of the year, but we are asking for one transfer this month in the package, and that is to transfer some road maintenance money to highway union wages. The highway department has 13 people. We have 2 of them out on workers' comp, and we have extra work that needs to be done after these floods. So he would like to pull somebody on one of these workers' comp, maybe a long-term issue. So he would like to pull somebody on as soon as possible to get them up and running, and it's coming from road maintenance. At a special meeting, you approved money for the storm damage. With that storm damage, he's thinking he won't get to all the normal projects that he was going to do, the Public Works Director was going to do this year, and so that's why he thought the money could come from that. So this is, we do get reimbursed for workers' comp, a portion of the wages, and that's why it's not a full wage here to the end of the year. And of course, if both the employees on workers' comp come back, this money may not be fully expended.
Any questions on that for Marcia?
So if we hire a new person and both of them come back,
This would just be a temporary person.
Temporary, it would be a temporary position, has to be. Any further questions? So if not, I would make a motion that we approve an intra-department transfer through 5/29/25, is that 25? As noted in the budget for a transfer, I'm sorry, this number's too small for me. What's that number, 51?
21,000.
From road maintenance to the highway union account.
In the amount of
Do
21,000.
I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Bob seconds. Any further discussion?
what was the number you said, 5, what? Where,
I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
didn't understand the date you were talking about,
Yeah.
so.
I'm sorry, I got the wrong pair of glasses.
So what's the 8/28/24?
That was the date of the financial statements, just to tie back, so when they go to audit it, they can say, okay, I can see where that was approved there in this meeting.
So that's just to refer to, so I'll move to amend the date mentioned to 8/28/24.
Yeah, I'll second that. Okay, so we change that to 8/24/24.
You have to vote on the amendment and then
Yeah.
we'll vote on the motion.
All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay, so we'll amend that to read 8/24/24.
8/28/24.
8/28/24, sorry. Do we, any further discussion on that?
so what is the motion exactly?
The motion is to move and make an intra-department transfer from road maintenance of 21,000 to highway union salary, starting 8/24/24, as noted in the budget expenditure report. Bob had seconded that.
So we're backdating the transfer?
No, that's just the date at which we would start the accounting for it.
That's, Tara, that's to refer to the date on this report
Yeah.
that we received. That's all that Marcia said that is.
Yeah.
It's just a reference to the report.
So if
But we
the
ought to be
auditors
clearer
come,
on
they'll
that
know
language.
Okay,
when
take
to
that out
report.
next time.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries 3-0. There is one other issue. The police department had come to the Board of Selectmen previously. We are doing a lot of additional work on our, remember the records clerk position? The records clerk position has grown in the amount of work that they have to do, primarily because of the FOIA request for body cam video. It takes about an hour and a half to redact and edit every single half an hour. body cam video. 3 or 4 police officers can show up at any one incident. It is causing a big backlog and delay. The police department had asked for additional funding to support a part-time position to help in the records department. We've looked at it and given, and the numbers are in here. Marcia, would you run through those for us, what the numbers are?
Is this?
That we would be able to fund it through the existing salary line in the police department?
Are you moving to add this to the agenda, or is this number 2? Where are
It's
we?
not number 2, I'm just making an explanation. We're doing, this doesn't need an approval by the Board of Selectmen, but to be totally
Okay.
transparent, I'm telling you what we're doing.
Don't we need a motion to add something to the agenda that's not on the agenda?
No, this is a part of the financial report, I think. I don't think we need to add an explanation, an update. Tom, do we need to have a motion to discuss?
No, it's perfectly fine if it's part of the financial update as to
Yeah, okay,
the money
thanks.
being spent on. It's in the existing budget.
Great, thank you. Marcia, just want to run through the numbers real quick for us?
Sure, there's, in prior years, these were in separate account numbers, but this year we merged all the union salaries together to better follow the uniform chart of accounts. So it's going from what used to be a clerical union, or the money's going to the what used to be a clerical union from the police union, but they're all combined in this year's budget, so there's no need for a formal transfer. The money is coming from essentially 2 different locations that we talk about. If you've ever watched a Board of Ed meeting or a Board of Finance meeting, one is from leaves and vacancies that we've been down 4 officers for the first part of this year, that and that will save us money. That so that's part of the savings, and the other part of the savings is what we call on the Board of Ed side teacher turnover, and here it's police officer turnover. In the budget, those 4 officers were not at the lowest step. They were, the people that have left were at higher steps, and so we are hiring these 4 new officers at the entry level step, so that'll also save us money. And with those 2 savings, we will be able to cover, one, moving the officer that was supposed to be hired January 1st earlier to get into the training, and 2, this records clerk position for 20 hours a week at the union rate.
Again, that would not be a permanent position, right? If we wanted to make it permanent, we'd have to add it to next year's budget. But we do have the funding now within their salary line to be able to do it. So we are going to move ahead with that. And I just want to make the board aware of that, because we had that discussion before. Any questions on that?
So the records clerk is staying at 20 hours?
A secondary records clerk at 20 hours to help catch up.
An additional part-timer. Okay.
Any questions on the revenue report?
No, I have no questions. Bob?
Okay.
Tara, any questions on revenue?
No.
Anything else, Marcia?
That's it?
That's it. Great. Thank you very, very much. Then we move to new items. We had a request from Region 5. There was a grant awarded to them in 2022, and for some reason we did not get the approval of the Board of Selectmen for Region 5 to accept that grant. When Region 5 accepts a grant, they have to get every town that is part of Region 5 to approve it. So this is just going back and approving that. The money doesn't come directly to us, it goes to Region 5. They use it to buy equipment, cots, other emergency equipment that they need to support all of the towns in Region 5. So I would make a motion that as part of the Demis Region 5, the Board of Selectmen approved the acceptance of the Department of Homeland Security grant in the amount of $395,456.
393, 456.
To be
And 15 cents.
and 15 cents, I can read the 15 cents, to be paid to Demis Region 5, and that the first selectman be authorized to sign and convey all documentation needed to allow Region 5 to accept the grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on that?
So just so I'm clear, this is we're a receiver of all this emergency equipment and supplies and stuff like that
We
from
are-
the DEHMS is us, or is that a broader group than us?
Demis is like Westcog. Yeah,
So it's a regional group,
it's a regional group. all
and
the
then we
towns
get
are
what
part
we
of it.
need out of that.
And then they buy equipment, they do all the supplies. If and when we need it, they will come and give it to us.
Okay.
They don't, it doesn't come to us. They hold on
Do
to
we
it.
store-
It's for the
They
region.
help us out with masks and
Yeah.
help us out from storms and
Yeah.
occasionally, it's a good thing.
And they get the grant from whom?
Department of Homeland Security.
Oh, from DHS. Okay, I got you.
So this is not a cost item, this is just.
This is
Demis
us
supply-
participating.
Right, participating in the overall grant process and improving it. Any further
And
questions?
this is from 2022, you said?
Yeah, from 2022.
It says on here
That's the federal year.
2023.
That's the federal year. Okay. Huh?
It says on here 2023.
It says it should have been completed 2023, but the form, it says 2022.
Yeah, it was the 20,
Even in the description, it says the year 2022 states thing, it should have been completed in March of 2023.
right.
But it was for the 2022 grant.
Yes,
I got it.
correct. Okay.
So do they solicit for this grant every year?
Yes, I believe they do.
I reviewed these number of times.
Yeah,
There's some here to that.
just wasn't approved back
I have no further questions.
Okay. Any further questions, concerns, comments? Okay. All those in, I would make that motion. Do I have a second?
I've already been seconded.
Oh, I did, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. Our next item is modification of existing driveway easement, Happy Landings. The Conservation Commission has approved the 12-foot modification to the Happy Landings driveway easement. Documentation is in your booklet. This is to allow a resident that is next to Happy Landings to be able to safely get out of their driveway and be able to look both ways on the road. It's literally a 12-foot, it's about 400 square feet that we would grant an easement to. Conservation Commission have looked at that, walked it, and approved it. I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen review and refer the proposed easement to the Planning Commission for an 8/24 referral, asking them to respond back in time for our October 2024 Board of Selectmen meeting. Do I have a second for that?
The second.
Second. Any questions, discussions?
Is it the little tiny, Tom just leaned over to me, he says, it's this little tiny triangle that cuts a corner.
Perhaps the smallest easement I've ever reviewed.
Oh, man.
It really is teeny, but it would help this.
Right.
It allows them
Homeowner.
to take the curve, it allows them to take the curve a little bit.
Yeah, and to come out to the road straight rather than at an angle. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of referring it to the planning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. Approval of grantees for town donations for fiscal 2024-25. Ellen Melville, the Brookfield Senior and Social Services Director, does a review for us every year, and makes a recommendation to the town where the town's donation should go. This formalizes taking those recommendations and actually funding those in a total amount of $10,600. The list of grantees is on there. The criteria is usually organizations that work with Brookfield residents and help Brookfield residents, and I think she's done a really good job on this. I would make a motion that the selectmen approve the list of not-for-profit grantee organizations that assist town residents as proposed by the director of the senior center in the total amount of $10,600 as shown on the attached list to the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Are there any new recipients from last year? Do we know?
I don't know if there's, I didn't check this versus last year. They're usually the same, very similar recipients.
I know she started like an application process, so they're all vetted, but
Yeah.
I was just curious if we've solicited for any new applicants or if we're able to maybe increase the amount, because I think it's been pretty stable at that 10.6 for several years.
So,
Yeah, it has been.
Tara, if you look at the data sheet that's on the second page, they actually have the 2024 approved and the 2025 approved are in two different columns there. So in the middle of the page, you
Yeah.
see the 2024 approved, and then on the far right is what they're asking us to do.
So we did go up,
So a couple went up, and what's a couple some went down.
but it's still the 10.6, so,
It doesn't look like there's a different group of people, right? It looks like the new ones are the UR community care at the bottom. Oh, that's a 0, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's no new ones.
I remember asking that question last year, like how are we, not advertising, but how are we getting the word out that these funds are available for agencies to apply for?
I think my experience, and I think I would imagine yours is too, is that no one is hesitant to ask the town for money, anybody who wants it. There are quite a few that come that don't make it to the list.
And is there any way for us to kind of give more?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, the list includes everyone who applied. Some of them we obviously don't fund.
During the budget process, we can increase
Yeah.
that.
This is during the normal annual budget process we do in January, February, March. And this is just,
So we had $12,000 of requests, and we had approved 10,600.
right.
And it looks like we gave a little bit less to Ability, but we gave them the same amount as last year roughly.
Right.
And then there was this group, UR Community Care, who requested money that we didn't give them anything.
Right.
That's about $2,000, which is about the difference. Okay.
$500 doesn't get you very far nowadays.
No, it
No,
really
it
doesn't,
doesn't.
does it?
You know, the concern there, my concern has always been on this, is that many of our residents are very, very generous and make donations to organizations. I'm not sure it really is the town's job to take money from our residents and then decide how to donate that money. These are all great organizations. So, you know, people should be making donations on their own, and for the town to be making decisions on their behalf seems a little odd to me. I don't want to change it, but it strikes me as, I don't know what's the word, unusual. We want to support all local organizations, but we want our residents to support them directly. And for us as a board to make decisions about where our residents' money should go seems a little odd to me.
I mean, that's essentially our job, is to take the tax dollar and reallocate it, right? Across the board.
Yeah.
That's what we do, so.
We do, but in the case of donations, people could spend that directly. They can't directly pave their
But
street.
Steve, it's nice to have a little bit
It
of
is.
base level
It
support
is.
that
I
the
agree.
entire town is
I
supporting.
agree. I
so
mean, we've never,
This is not significant amounts of
No,
money,
no.
to be frank, so.
it's just a concern of mine. Okay. Okay. So we have a motion. We have, I think you seconded, Bob, did you?
I seconded. Yes, I did second
Yeah.
that.
Without further discussion, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
carries, okay. Brookfield Cares Grant, Brookfield Cares is applying to the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services for a grant as an LPC, Local Prevention Council. Brookfield Cares is our local prevention council. They're asking for us to approve the first selectman signing the grant application, which is a required document to allow them to accept the grant. So I'd make the motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the first selectman signing the grant application and any other required documentation to allow Brookfield Cares to accept that grant. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second, Tara, second. Any questions, concerns?
no town match or anything here, right?
No. Okay. Bob, any?
No.
No? All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. item E, this is gonna change a little bit after discussion with the town attorney on Friday. He clarified something for us in that the formation of a committee for the plan of conservation development is solely under the purview of the planning commission, and they would form the committee. I would say that we still want to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen forward to the planning commission a recommendation that they appoint a subcommittee of involved boards that they would determine to help them in forming the plan of conservation and development.
Do we need a board of selectmen?
We don't have to.
If you could just do that as a first selectman, correct?
Yeah, I could. Does the board agree that we should? The consultant that we've hired strongly recommends that there be a committee of zoning, planning, conservation, EDC, even Board of Finance to help the planning board continue their work. I wanted to more formalize that to make sure that everybody involved is on notice and is willing to help. But it's the planning board's job to do that. So we would, as a board, we could urge them to do that, or I could just urge them directly myself.
So the new POCD is due in January of 2026, right?
I think it's March. I think it's actually March of 2026, but they plan to have it finished in October 2025. That's our goal.
Why?
Because there'll be a whole new board after that.
There'll be a
It'll
whole new
all-
board starting in-
Remember,
Oh, we're merging.
we're
We're
combining
merging.
planning.
Yeah.
Man, I
Yeah.
would hate to have a new board get put in and then have to finish
A whole new
that
planning
work.
zoning board.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
that
gotta
would
let
be-
this planning.
So I think that's a
finish.
good goal to
But
have
if
this
we
finished.
have this ad hoc committee, then they're gonna be their own entity anyway when the merge happens. So what's the I understand the merge, but
Yeah, so,
we gotta get it right, so.
Yes.
Well,
If we need,
there's
That's
certain
our goal.
there's certain timelines pursuant to the statute that governs, the POCD. And I sent an outline of that to Laura and to Scott, chairman of the planning commission. So they're aware of the timeframes because they do their work. Ultimately, they'll send a draft to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen can hold public hearings as well. So they're aware of that. The idea here is that as they're drafting the POCD, they get input from a variety of other boards and commissions
Right.
via, at the suggestion here, via a subcommittee that would be made up of members of those various boards and commissions and or town officials to help them with that task and maybe expedite getting a draft completed.
so, have we ever had one of these committees before?
I
I can't recall.
don't know. I don't know,
We've always
'cause
used the firm, right?
last one was 10 years ago.
Oh, no, always used the what?
We've hired a consultant to write it.
True, but I can't remember whether there was also a subcommittee. This isn't in lieu of a consultant.
No,
But
This
it
is
says
just-
here to help write and build.
no.
It's
We're
not
s-
in lieu of a consultant, this
Yeah.
is just a subcommittee to get input, much like charter revision gets input.
Yeah, so we still have the consultant, it will report to the planning commission, the planning commission will direct the work of the consultant, and they'll do a lot of the day-to-day, hard work, creation of reports and things like that, studies, analysis. Our recommendation here is that we want the planning commission to involve as many of the other boards as possible while they do this, so that we create the best possible plan of conservation and development.
So, there's no members of the public writ large.
The planning commission could add, it's now their purview, they could add anyone they wanted. They could say, we want a committee of 15 people, 5 of them as public residents. It's their decision. We can encourage them, and I believe they should have someone from zoning, someone from planning, someone from the EDC, someone from WPCA, somebody from Board of Finance to help them if they have any considerations that might be financial, but the final decision would be up to them. Now, obviously, you don't want to get a committee that's got
That's all
28
correct.
people.
I'm gonna say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is their purview.
It is.
This isn't our purview. Right? They have to decide how they're gonna organize and who they're gonna pull in. We shouldn't stick our nose into their business. We should, you can talk to them, right? You do that all the time
Yep.
anyhow as our first selectman, but I think a formal motion from the Board of Selectmen to the planning urging them to set up a committee. If I'd been on like the Board of Ed and I got that letter from the Board of Selectmen, I would have bristled at that. Because they're responsible,
Yes, they're competent, they're very competent.
they've got authority over this.
And that's all fine, I'm just saying
I didn't-
perhaps we should build into here that members of the, we also would encourage members of the public, because there was just an article in the newspaper today where residents of Brookfield are freaking out because they're unhappy with the last go-around and the way things have gone in town, so.
But we
I
will-
can answer that actually because, and this is the statute that allows the planning commission to form a special committee. And the statute specifically says membership of any special committee may include residents of the municipality and representatives of local boards dealing with zoning, inland wetlands, conservation, recreation, education, public works, finance, redevelopment, general government, and other municipal functions.
Yeah.
So the statute gives them the ability to just.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but that's planning's responsibility, and after having talked to Bob about this, I agree with Bob.
I think we ought to just stay, I
Just
mean,
leave
from
it.
a formal position coming from the Board of Selectmen, I don't think we should take an action here. I think it's their action.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I know, I know what the intent was to push it
Yes.
and make
The
sure that
intent
it
was to
gets done.
support and help them,
But
but let's let them, they're smart people, they know what they're doing, and I continue to talk to Scott, the chairman.
we've got a really good planning commission,
Yeah.
so I think they will reach out and do the things they need to do to get all the voices
Yep.
heard, right?
Yep.
And by the way, don't we also then, when it comes forward, we have a lot of opportunity with public hearings? They do them and we do them, or is it?
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen will have an opportunity and at the board's discretion, hold their own public hearings and then
Yeah.
do recommendations for any changes back to.
And right
planning
now,
commission.
the plan from the consultant shows 3 public hearings, at least 3.
Oh, good.
That the planning commission, they're gonna be open, they're gonna be out there. So I agree with you, Bob, I think we make a motion to take no action on this.
Yeah, I think we,
Yeah.
we skip item E.
Yeah, or just table
No
it.
action at all.
Yeah,
No action.
okay, so we'll skip it. Okay, Do you
okay
agree?
with that, Tara?
Tara?
If that's legally what we're
Yeah.
being told to
Okay.
do.
Updates, Homeland Towers. Ray Vergati, would you join us? Cynthia, can you put up the coverage maps? That's what I mostly want to show people that they have not seen before. So can we put the coverage map from the siting council first? Yeah, okay. Scooch up, so you can, yeah, just make it a little bit smaller. So on this, the white areas are where there is no coverage. This coverage map comes from the siting council. It came Friday to us. And it shows of all the carriers that have towers that reach into Brookfield, the green area is where they reach people. The white area is where they do not reach people, that do not have good cell coverage. They have a standard 85 mega, what is the standard? How do you pronounce it?
85 dBm, it's 85 neg, it's a minus neg 85 dBm, and it's how they measure the signal strength.
Yeah, just for the record, this is Raymond Vergati of Homeland Towers. We've asked him to join us. So you can see in the northeast section of town and in the southeast section, the coverage is not great. And as a matter of fact, I was walking my dogs the other day, and one of my neighbors on my street has no cell coverage. And I was a little surprised, but his house is about 100 feet below mine. So this map is from the siting council. The green is all the coverage from every single tower. And if you notice, 2 of these towers are not even in Brookfield that cover the town, but they've given us that coverage. Can we move to the coverage maps that Mr. Vergati supplied and are in our packages? So, Ray, you want to walk through these for us, could you?
Sure. First of all, First Selectman Dunn, members of the board, just again for the record, Ray Vergati, I'm the regional manager at Homeland Towers. We're a tower developer out of Danbury, Connecticut. I was the gentleman who did a tower here at Town Hall, did the recent tower, well, stacked a year ago on Vale Road. We're obviously pursuing the northeast section of Brookfield for a tower. We simply build the infrastructure for the carriers. In this case, we do have a carrier that's interested in providing coverage. As First Selectman Dunn just pointed out, the siding council plots that were provided certainly show the need. I wouldn't be looking to leave space in the northeast if there was no need. I'm not looking to spend $1 million for the sake of it. A carrier is not looking to spend large sums of money for the sake of it. There's a need here. This is the coverage plot that was provided by the carrier. This is what the existing 700, which is basically, if you look at, we were just talking about the signal level. The red is the neg 85. It's a little blurry to see, but the red color is neg 85. The purplish is neg 95. The lower the number, the stronger the signal. And typically what that means to the average viewer is you look at a location that has red coverage, that's more or less reliable in building coverage because the signal can penetrate walls.
Right.
And you need a stronger signal to do that. The purplish color is more reliable in car or on the street coverage. So this is the existing coverage right now that the town has in the northeast section for the carrier that provided this coverage plot to us. We provided it to the town.
And this is a single carrier.
This is a single carrier. And look, there's no secret. I'm happy to, and we discussed this openly before, it is Verizon Wireless. They are the ones that are driving this project. They would be the anchor tenant. Type of business, you build a tower and others will come. But Verizon is the one that has expressed a need here, and we're working with them on securing a site.
Okay, can we move to what the coverage would look like on the various?
So this is just a brief history. You know, we started this venture last September with the town with a proposal.
Yeah.
Originally, it was the 45 Long Meadow, which is the vacant lot across from the high school. We looked at 3 or 4 options there. Then we looked at 2 options at the high school property, which I believe that is, I want to say that's 62. I'm sorry, 62 is, it's confusing. 62 is across from the high school, the vacant lot.
Which we called A and B.
Which we called,
A and B is still on the high school property.
Yeah.
there's still an A and B. Each parcel had multiple options. This is like our 7th or 8th option we provided. It's kind of like, anyways, so the high school, which is 45 Long Meadow, we've provided an A and a B option. The town had asked us to look further away from the high school. You wanted that magic number of 1,500 feet from the school. So we did a C and a D, which is really not located on the high school property. It's at 7 Long Meadow, which is the, I guess you may call it the Gursky Park, Gursky Open Space, possibly.
It's 7A, Long Meadow.
Okay. So I've heard of different names over the years and whatnot, but it's just 7 Long Meadow. It's vacant parcel. There's walking trails that go through it. I don't know if it's truly deemed open space, but it's vacant property that the town owns. We had coverage plots run at a C and D location. The C location being 1,500 feet away from the school, where the access to get to the C option would be through the high school property, coming through the back tennis courts, up a walking trail, and you go quite a few distance and you're at option C. We also ran a plot for option D. They're very similar, but basically the C plot or coverage map is what you see up there before you. It fills in very nicely. It fills in Lake Lenona, the condos, which I believe, just looking at the assessor online, there's roughly 50 residences there. You've got Hop Brook Road. You've got Signal Hill. You have Hearthstone. You have Obtuse. You have Old Bridge. You have a lot of roads and residential communities that do not have coverage, and it's because of the topography. It goes down. It's a hollow down there. So a site there at option C at 7 Long Meadow, you can see how it fills in very nicely to the east and to the north. Option D which is 1,635 feet, give or take, from the high school. And we had shown access coming in off of Long Meadow Road. It would require a very long access road, a lot of tree removal, crossing a wetland, running parallel to a wetland, putting in a new road to get up a hillside, having an access road of roughly 21 linear feet as an option D. And it doesn't perform as well as option C. Again, it's driven by terrain and location, obviously. It does perform, but you can see the white portion just to the right of the circle there, which is the site. And that's a hollow. That's kind of Hot Brook. That's obtuse road. It's more of a depression down there where the signal would not penetrate. It's a low-lying area, and you've got a ridge that is just before it, so the signal doesn't propagate down in there. Not a lot of homes, which is good. It's just basically where the brook runs. So I know, Steve, you've had a lot of input from your planning commission on the 824 referral on what their option was preferred, and I know you received a memo from the Conservation Commission in July stating what their options were.
Yep.
Everybody has an opinion here.
Yep.
You know, I'm looking to get direction tonight from this board on what you want to do. And if you pick option A, B, C, D, whatever it is, I'll work with Attorney Beecher on a lease. We've already presented site plans to the board. We've been at this for almost a year, and we need to make a decision to move on.
Yeah, the process we have is, if we decided to move forward and this board decided to move this forward, we have to have a hearing for residents, which we would obviously ask Homeland to come to and make a full presentation. We would then have to have a vote, a town meeting, that residents would be invited to come to.
And that's because it's a lease.
Yeah.
It's a lease of property.
This is a lease of property on town land, and that's just required by our charter and our ordinances. So we have to make a decision as a board. Now, we should back up just a little bit here. The town can either consider leasing property on town property to Homeland Towers. If we made a decision, this board decided tonight to say no, then Homeland Towers would then go to other possible leasers of property and come to an arrangement with them. The issue there, and which is a concern for the town, is that can be any property that fits Homeland's requirements. They can go to any property owner. So the property owner could be directly next to the high school, 200 feet from the high school. It could be on Long Meadow Hill Road. It could be in a lot of places that a lot of people would not like it. I think the Board of Selectmen should consider leasing property, leasing to Homeland on town property, because we want to keep this tower as far away from the school as possible, as far away from residences as possible, and as aesthetically least obtrusive, while still meeting the needs of our northeast town residents. I think the fire and police and EMS have been very clear that they really need this. We've had residents come and say to us, you know, I've got to drive up the hill to report a fire. We've had residents call us saying that they had come to us and say they had to stand on a bed in a corner of their house to get cell phone coverage. So there is a safety concern here. So the question I think that residents really need to be aware of and understand is the town can say no to this, right? That only means it won't go on town land. If Homeland Towers can find another property to lease to them, the tower will go up.
Well, siting council would have to approve it.
Well, yeah, and then the siting council would have to approve. Given the coverage maps that have been shown to us, I'm pretty sure that the siting council is going to look at this, look at the evidence, and say, yeah, they need coverage in the northeast part of town. I think the siting council will approve this. I don't think, have you ever gone before the siting council and been turned down for us?
No, and the reason for that is, at that point, I've probably spent a few $100,000 on an application. So I literally have looked under every stone, every property that we think checks the boxes, leasable, constructible, least intrusive, least intrusive environmentally, aesthetically. So before we ever go to siting council, we do our homework. And me personally, I've never been rejected by the siting council.
So what authority does the town or the zoning commission have to deny homeowners from putting it on their property? Like, can't the zoning commission, like other towns now are, like Stamford, for example, in the video I sent you, I don't know if you watched it. The
Yeah,
zoning commission said, no go. The
Yeah,
town
they
zoning
did,
board said no
but that
more.
zoning commission only applies to town buildings. Stanford can say, no, we're not gonna rent small cell towers to anyone on any of our buildings. If a resident wanted to lease a tower, they could. Their zoning does not apply to residences or other private properties.
There, you know, Tara, there's a handful of towns around the country who've actually enacted setbacks, right? You know, approval and setback things. We do have zoning requirements for towers, right, in town, but it doesn't have a distance characteristic because historically, siting council has not paid attention to that. So it's an interesting question, and I've been asking Steve if we should bring forward a proposal to actually get it into our zoning to have a setback for homes. And it's not clear whether that would have any teeth or not. But we would, I think, as a town, the residents and us, if there was a proposal on a place we didn't find acceptable, we could make as much noise as we could at siting council, much like we've tried to do on the compressor station.
Yeah.
So we want to have it in a place in the town that is least obtrusive, if at all, right? So and I think, Steve, just so far I'm clear, if I look at the state map that they sent us, the one that was in the green, that's all carriers, right?
All carriers.
And this is just Verizon, correct?
This would be just for
That is
Verizon.
just, that is
And it
just
looked to me
Verizon.
like they had the same blank space,
Yes,
roughly.
they're
So
very.
that says none of the carriers have this.
Yeah, and if you read the siting council's letter that came in on the 29th, they specifically say that the coverage that they show is actually maybe a little generous, because they don't have the parameters of the carriers per se, so it's actually over predicting or performing.
Well, we've also learned through Bob's recent recon that the siting council doesn't have the most current or reliable information. Their website says we have 17 towers, but you only counted.
Well, so to be clear, the siting council lists every broadcast thing, right? It could be an antenna on the top of a building, like that's a radio antenna that is sending, for example, I think there's one on Candlewood East Marina that's for contacting people out on the lake, right? It's a tower, but it's not a tower, right? There's a big difference between a 100-foot tower and a unit on the top of a building.
The siting council's website has two spreadsheets, basically CSC approved sites, and then a comprehensive database of all sites, rooftops, water tanks, towers, billboards. The siting council, their purview and what they oversee exclusively is pretty much towers. They won't get involved on a rooftop application, but they'll have it in their database if there is antennas up there.
Yeah, so I think we have 3 big towers and we have a couple of smaller towers that are in town. Like 3 big ones are the one up on Laurel Hill. I'm sorry, 3 right now. So it's the Laurel Hill, the Vale Road, and the one here behind the town hall property. Those are the 3 big ones. There's one over at the YMCA that's in their flagpole.
100-foot, 90-foot flagpole at the Y.
It's a tall flagpole, basically, and that's not gonna give you a lot of coverage. And then there's one that is just T-Mobile up in Four Corners, right? That's right, that kind of, you see those power lines going across the road in Four Corners. So those are the only real towers, per se, that are tall enough that I would call it a tower. But their database has 17 things, many of which are just designated as utility pole, right? I don't remember.
Could be a small cell on top of the
Could
utility.
be a small cell, right? And the small cells are really what they were talking about a lot about in that Stanford video, was the small cells, because they proliferate dramatically, right, with 5G in cities especially.
Yeah.
Small cells are used for fill-in and capacity. They're really not meant for coverage.
Yes.
They have a very discrete, if there's a very discrete gap, you'll do a small cell. It's just maybe an eighth of a mile of coverage. When I say you, the town has a coverage gap in the northeast section that's been
Yeah,
identified.
I would agree with that. That's, and all the
And
maps
small
show.
cells won't satisfy that. You need what's called a macro site, which is what we are proposing, a macro tower, traditional tower, like what's here on the town campus.
And nonetheless, they all radiate and have EMF exposure, so
They do.
it's the same.
They do. You know, we've had people come and have been very vocal, and we welcome that, on both sides of this issue. We've had people who have been very pro adding a tower. We've had people who have been very anti building a tower. I think that the residents should get the opportunity to vote on this. They're the ones that are gonna have to live with this. They're the ones who can advocate directly at a town meeting to vote on this. I don't think that the Board of Selectmen should out of hand just say no to this, given the fact that I believe that a cell tower will be built, and will be built in a place I believe that everyone will find less attractive, less palatable than putting it on town property. So I think, given we have all these voices in town, I think we should move forward and have a hearing and let the town vote on it.
There's not many private properties that are 62 and a half acres wooded,
Yes.
40 some odd acres wooded, so.
Yeah, and there's no requirement of the state for Homeland Security to say, oh, you must go on a 10-acre property. You
No,
must-
I've put towers on 2-acre parcels before.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the risk you run. The chances are we are gonna get a tower. I think that Homeland Towers can show the need. for
We
a
don't show
tower.
the need, the carriers will show the need
The
and
carriers show the
justify it.
need.
We're simply there building your
Through,
infrastructure.
through you, they're
Yes.
showing this. So that's what I think. I think the residents should get a chance to vote on this. That's what these things are about. So I would make a motion that we move this to a hearing at our October Board of Selectmen meeting, and try to advertise it significantly, and move the Board of Selectmen meeting to the high school if we can, right?
Well,
If we have a lot of
Before
people.
before we go to a
Yeah.
motion, could I ask a question?
Sure.
The option C and D, they're further up into the woods, which to me, I looked at A and B, and they would have a tower looming above high school property. That's the downside of them. They'd be really, even though they're 500 feet from the school, 600 feet from the school, 800 feet from the school, they're actually physically, they would be sitting at the top of the sledding hill, right?
800 and 1,000 feet were A and B respectively.
Whereas when I looked at the C and D options, they were 1,600, 1,500 type feet. right?
1,500 and 1,635 respectively.
And they're, I don't know about you guys, but if we were gonna do a cell tower, I'd want it buried in the woods, right? The question I have for you is, you had talked to us about the financial arrangements with the town. If we went with either, it sounds like D is a more involved construction project.
C and D are involved. D is the most involved because of the road, and I have some reservations on D because of the wetlands there.
Okay.
We're crossing,
The one you and I walked.
we walked it
Yeah.
back in June, I believe. We crossed an existing culvert, but then we run parallel to a wetland system. And this is not a walking trail. We're putting in an access drive, which is typically 12-foot wide, gravel. We're bringing in utilities. There's disturbance there.
And in C, you take it up a trail that is actually not really, doesn't look like it's used all that
The
much.
C, we would come in from behind the tennis courts.
Yeah.
There is a wetland crossing there, but it's more really an intermittent stream that we'd be crossing, maybe a foot wide, but it's still considered wet. We'd have to bring an access road up the hill behind the tennis court and then grab an existing walking trail and more or less a straight shot up the hill. And we would achieve, getting that magic number that you wanted of 1,500 feet setback from the school. That can be achieved. We would follow that existing path. It would need to be improved. It's quite washed out.
Yeah.
But that, from an economic standpoint, that's still very expensive. I mean, these sites are not cheap these days from a
But
construction.
would you be able to honor the financial arrangements that we had talked about a number of months ago when we were talking about across the street in terms of what we do with Vale and
No.
what we would do here?
We wouldn't. If we were looking at the site across from the high school, we looked at A, B, and C options. We had access roads that were 200 feet, 400 feet, 600 feet into that parcel there. We know what we're getting when we're building a site like that. You know, the town has asked us to basically pick a site that's gonna have access roads that are gonna be astronomical in expenses. So not to commit to a number tonight, what I would do is if the town says, okay, Ray, we want option, I'll work with Attorney Beecher on the lease. That lease will contain business terms. I know the Vale Road and this are kind of possibly tied.
Right.
But the town is really asking for a heavy lift here from a construction standpoint with the costs. And if you even take option D, for example, you know, roughly 2,200, it's almost a half a mile of an access road to get to option D.
This is, I feel like we're really being bullied here and.
No,
it's-
you're
yes,
not, Tara.
we are.
Tara,
It's been
you're not
almost a
being
year.
bullied,
Those were
and
your
I'm being
words.
very upfront and transparent, and I'm simply stating
You're strong-arming
that,
us.
no,
It's
that the,
inappropriate.
no, and I haven't committed to any terms, I'm simply stating that we will look at our construction costs. There's a difference between a 200-foot access road and a 1,500-foot access road. There's quite a bit of a difference in costs.
And if I can, no one is strong-arming the Board of Selectmen.
Absolutely
We're
not.
simply having a conversation.
Yes.
That's all we're doing. And
So
I
if
think
you go to public hearing with this, which location are you proposing to the residents of this town?
I would lean towards option C.
Which is that? Can you show us a map that shows exactly where that is?
We all had those maps previously. I don't know if we have it. Do we, Cynthia, do we have it?
It's in the, it's attached, Cynthia, to the July 1st board package.
Let's see if we can find that. So, Tom, if we had a hearing, would we have to decide on a location tonight, or could the hearing have that?
No, you should have the site because, for the public hearing, that has to be noticed in the newspaper in advance of that hearing.
Okay, okay,
You need to warn the public on what the
okay.
hearing's about.
That makes sense.
So let me make sure I'm clear then on the steps while Cynthia is doing this.
Yeah.
We have a decision we can make tonight to select a site and take it to a public hearing, and then the public votes on it.
Then we
right,
would
at-
then
at-
have a
at
town meeting
right?
after.
Or we can decide not to proceed, period.
Correct.
That's our choice.
That's our choice. Yeah. Yeah.
C and D.
I don't know if we have it. There's C and D.
C and D should have a date, a site plan
There it
date of
is.
Yeah,
Here we go.
6/21.
Here's C and D.
So, Tara, just so you can orient, could you scroll down a little bit so we can see the high school there, Cynthia? So, you see right at the top of the screen there's a little box that says F070010, right? That, right at the top, we're next to the green. That's where the sledding hill is at the high school. I'm just to orient you,
Yeah.
right? And then the dotted lines are the trails, the existing trails that go back from that. And the ones that go straight back from that box is like the running trails that the cross-country teams run on.
Correct.
Right, and then they go down, they continued on down into
Gursky.
Williams, Gursky and Williams, so. So option C, and so the option C, which is right along the edge of one of those trails, which is the kind of rightmost of the two. The access road goes up, I actually walked this, there's a long trail that goes up to where the tennis courts are, that looks like it's not being used at all. It's very washed out.
It's very washed
not like anybody's walking on it or doing it, and they would improve that and take it, widen it and take it up from the tennis courts straight up to that location. The problem with option D is it's kind of further buried in the woods. It's a little closer to homes, right? That option C, by the way, isn't very close to any homes, right? It's near the trails, but it's not near the homes.
Yeah.
And it would, but it would require a long, now you can scroll up a little bit, Cynthia. So there's a long trail that would actually go, you can see it kind of curves from the option D and
probably
goes down
50%
along the
longer.
wetlands and then straight out to Long Meadow Hill Road. And that's an existing, actually reasonably wide walking, very rough walking trail going down that way. I walked it. And then then it has to cross that little one bit of wetlands, and then it would kind of turn left and then can go along the edge of the wetlands and curve up. That's all new road. That doesn't exist.
Correct. We'd have to traverse that
Whereas the
hillside.
one coming up from the tennis courts is kind of, there's already a cleared space. It's just a matter of improving it.
So much fewer trees would be taken down.
Well, yeah, thank you for showing me that on C&D on the map, because I go back to the letter of the Conservation Commission, and they say,
They would prefer
prefer-
not C and D, they want A
Right.
and B.
Yeah.
So
Now,
we're
where
just
A and B
gonna
are, to give you an idea of
discount
this.
what they're
Yeah, but
saying?
let me show you where A and B are. So, A and B, Cynthia, if you scroll down a little
I
bit again.
remember.
Yeah, no, the other way. They're right above where that dark line goes across, basically. They're on, along the trails right to the top of the high school property. So it would be, you would, so when you come in from that little box where the sledding hill and you kind of continue the trail, they're right along where that
Arrow
solid line is with an arrow. And that's like a stone wall there, if I remember. That's,
Yes.
it's right along the stone wall that's there. The one on the far right of that, which is option B, is actually getting close to the edge of the hill that looks down over the valley there. And option A is right where that little kind of there's a little dotted line that goes off to the side there, right at that stone wall. It's right in there. So they're very much closer to the high school. These are more buried in the woods, C and D. Now, conservation, it makes sense to me, the answers we got.
Yeah.
Conservation would rather it be on the high school property and not near the trails. And zoning actually preferred, they were actually relatively agnostic on any of the four, if I remember their letter.
Yeah.
So, and for me, I wouldn't want them a big tall tower hanging up above the playing fields. I hate to say it, so.
I agree with you on that. I mean, it would be really visible from the playing fields and the school itself. And it's closer to them, and we want to be further.
How tall are these towers?
The C and D would be posed at 175.
And A and B, where do you remember?
I think they were 190 at A and B because of lower ground.
There's a lower ground there. These will go up the hill there.
Yeah.
So if you're at the high school backfield, will you still be able, you'll see this thing protruding out of the trees at both C and D, right?
At all of these, I think you're going to see them,
Not that much.
but not as much.
When you walk up to where where C and D are, you're way away from the high school.
You have rising terrain, and then you have pretty mature trees that offer a wall of screening, so it's set back pretty far.
Yeah.
You might see something from the student parking lot over the tree line. You probably wouldn't see it from the fields.
So we heard from a resident tonight about the historic district. C and D are in that district?
No.
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 The historic district is
It's
down.
Long Meadow Hill Road.
You see where Long Meadow Hill Road comes in, you can see where the junction is right next to the library. So the historic district kind of goes along that part of Long Meadow and then down to the south of there.
It starts just where Hamlin Court is. The hamlet starts just south of Hamlin Court and runs south along Long Meadow.
Through where Congregational Church is.
Yeah.
And from the homes, C and D are,
You know,
I want to say they're well over 1,000 feet, right?
yeah. The closest home I think we had for C and D was 1,300 feet away.
Can you see the C and D from that neighborhood?
Which
I
neighborhood?
think yes.
Like Hamlin Court and the houses over off of Long Meadow?
I think you'd be hard pressed, especially with leaves on. We don't know until you get into the full-blown siding council and you start doing balloon floats and all that good stuff.
Do you actually do balloon floats?
Some vendors do balloon floats. Another vendor we have has the capability of doing photo simulations just based
Yeah,
on
you
a-
showed us
Yeah,
some
that's
with the
always
first
good.
set that we
Yes,
went through.
correct. And it's spot on.
Is it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I go back to my point. I think there's a lot of controversy on this. There are two sides to this. And I think residents should get a vote. They really should. And if we move forward, I think that we should move forward with option C. I think that is the best compromise of all of the options, including saying no.
See, for me, C works only because of the access road.
Right.
It's a much less intrusive access road discussion.
I agree.
Right?
It
And,
is much less
trying to bring
intrusive.
trucks in from Long Meadow Hill Road is worrisome to me, and
Yeah.
that driveway you'd bring them in are right next to a house, so
It
it's.
is.
I actually like C only. I don't like that it's right next to the trail, so if there was a way eventually to move it a little bit off the trail, that would be fine. But that's a much better access road. But I'm kind of with you, Steve. I'd rather not have the Board of Selectmen just kill it. I'd rather let it be a vote of the public. It's too important for a big section of our town. And if the answer of the public is no, then the answer is no, right? And then we're done with this discussion altogether on
Absolutely.
town property.
Absolutely.
Not done with the discussion about whether there's a tower or elsewhere.
Right.
I think the public are gonna wanna know a lot more than just, do you want it here at location C? They're gonna wanna know the terms of the contract, what is our return on our investment, what are we getting? Is it a 30-year contract, is that what I remember?
Our typical ground lease is 55 years, but we can go lower.
I mean, that sounds insane
You,
in itself.
you've gotten all
What
that
town
information
signs a
already
55-year
on
contract with
the
anybody?
revenue numbers. Those would obviously change a little bit, but we can have that discussion before the hearing, and I think Ray could give us some closer numbers. The swing now, if we say no to putting it on C or D, right now is about $92,000 a year difference in cost to the town. I don't think that should be the primary consideration. The primary consideration should be, will it help our residents? Can we keep it as unobtrusive as possible? And can we keep it as far away from our school and residences as possible?
There's no other location on the northern side of the town that would be this far away from anything.
No.
This is buried in the woods.
Unless we convince Bridgewater to do it. And you're gonna have the same discussion there.
Yeah,
And
no.
those are all private properties.
Verizon needs to be here. This
Yeah.
is where their target search area is.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So-
I think it's a fair question that Tara brings up. We ought to collaborate on a list of questions that need to be answered
Yeah.
at the public hearing, right?
Yeah.
So we could give it to Ray, and Ray could be prepared at that.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely, I think we should do
So
that.
we,
And then-
Tara and I can both send you, our thoughts of what we ought to add to that list of questions, and then we ought to be prepared to
Right.
address them.
When is your next meeting in October?
October 7th,
Okay,
I believe that's.
What
Monday.
kind of lead time do we need
That's
for
a
a public
Monday.
hearing?
That's a Monday, it's always.
okay.
Public hearings, though, wouldn't necessarily be on that day, so we would,
I was thinking of having it the night of, but if that didn't work for us.
This isn't gonna be a short public hearing.
No,
so-
it's not, that's true, so we probably want to do it a different day. That week, you think?
I don't know, what's the lead time required, because you have to notice it and, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
for a public hearing, Tom, what's the lead time required?
I'm guessing it's a couple of weeks' notice from the town clerk.
Published twice in the newspaper. First, not more than 15 days before, and the second, not less than 2 days before.
So
You
15-day lead time.
Need a minimum of 16 clear days out of it.
So I would say let's shoot for the first week in October.
I won't be here.
I'm sorry?
The week of the 7th is better.
Same here, I'm out of the country.
Week of the
You wanna do
7th?
it the week of the 7th?
Yeah, I think the week of the 7th works.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
all in town.
Um,
Okay.
And you just need, you should probably make a motion to.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
we haven't done the
Public
motions
hearing?
yet,
No, we haven't done
You
motion.
may not be able to pick the date tonight because you wanna have it at the high school, you're not sure.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to school to make sure it's available. So I would make the motion that we move this to public hearing with a public hearing to be held the week of October 7th, depending upon which night we can get the high school auditorium.
Which option?
For option C, that would be Bob,
I'd be
your C?
okay with C. yeah.
For option C,
That's a way to have the discussion.
as a way to have the
Right.
discussion.
'Cause I don't
Right.
think D, A, or B makes sense. The only option to me that makes sense would be C, because D is gonna be so expensive and very intrusive into the,
Well, and
Well, hang on, he's
Lot
got a
of-
motion, you made a motion before
Yeah.
you
I'll,
discussed
I'll,
it.
I'll,
You
se-
need a
I'll
second.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, second motion. Now, we,
Now, and so A and B are right, they're just looming above the high school. If you talk about, towers that you would be seeing from football fields, that would be them, right? Whereas, C is further back. It's a little more expensive to build, unfortunately, but to me, it met the objectives.
yeah.
If we were gonna do it, and that's what we would turn to the public and say,
What
we
do you
have a
wanna do?
decision to make,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I'm really, really concerned if we just turn this down flat, that some resident in the Long Meadow Hill in that area is gonna put a tower in their backyard.
I know you're worried
And really,
about that.
really upset a lot of property owners around them. That's what I'm concerned about, is to make this as least obtrusive, as far away from residences, because I think that, Mr. Brigatti and his team and the carriers all do their homework. They,
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't do our homework and go back to the zoning and figure out how we can
Zoning-
create some form of stipulation so
No,
that we
you
can
can't.
just not have any more towers in Brookfield at all, especially not
Zoning
in a
does not
50-year
apply.
contract.
Legally, the siting council has jurisdiction over these, and they trump the zoning.
And that's
Zoning
the
can make a
problem.
recommendation, and they will listen to the recommendation, they will put it in the record, but, as to setbacks or anything else, the siting council makes the ultimate decision.
And it's a shame because they're not even an elected body and they're going off of guidelines that were created by the FCC in 1996. We're almost in 2025. It's bonkers. The whole thing.
yet we are where we are. We can't change the rules, how the siting council works. We can just try to ameliorate the
No,
potential. effects.
I do think that we shouldn't shy away from having a
Advocate.
discussion having a discussion on our own zoning guidelines, because we do have zoning guidelines on, on towers, that puts appropriate setbacks in that would make it hard to put it right next to another family's house, right? Siting council may choose to ignore it, right? And we might be faced with, do we want to spend money to enforce our own zoning? But I think we ought to put our foot down on setbacks.
I agree with you. I don't think they'll be effective. I think the siting council can just say, we don't have to listen to that. But we should put a stake in the ground on that. I
There's
agree.
towns who've been doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the closest town, Wallingford has them, and I guess,
Easton.
huh?
I think Easton.
I don't think Easton does.
Well, we're gonna have to get a backbone here and
Yeah,
figure
I'm
it out
with you on that. I'm
because
with you on that.
it's not fair either way.
And I think we do that in parallel with this discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's.
Because I can't picture any setbacks that we would do that would disallow this one,
Yeah,
because it's way away from everybody.
okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion on this?
I just wanna say for the record that I've always been a no. I don't think we should even entertain the idea of these towers on public property. And for that reason, I'm gonna vote no to the public hearing. And
Okay.
other reasons, which I won't get into again.
For the record, this tower is probably gonna be going in, and I would prefer to reduce the exposure and the risk and the aesthetic value to our residents by having our town consider putting it on town property. Bob?
Can I do it for the record too? For the record, I think the town's voters need to make this decision, not a three-person board. In this case, it's too big.
that's fine. I'll
And
work.
I think that moving it up to a town vote is the logical thing for us all to do.
Absolutely, I welcome it.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second to have this meeting, to have a hearing the week of October 7th, hopefully at the high school. We'll coordinate that this week and confirm it with everybody. And then we would probably, as a Board of Selectmen, meet either by phone, just to set a date, correct, Tom? Does the Board of Selectmen have to set a date, or can they authorize me
Would
to
that
set a
motion
If it's
date?
a
be sufficient?
logistical email, that's perfectly fine.
A logistical email will do it?
Logistical asking if the
Okay.
selectmen are available on
Okay.
day X or day Y.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah, because the motion covered the whole week, right?
Yeah, okay. So we have the motion, we have the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. So we have 2 yes, 1 no. Thank you, everybody.
Just a
Thank you,
point of
Mr.
clarification, there would be a public hearing the week of October 7th, whatever day the high
That
school
week.
would be open.
We will
Would
invite
there
you.
be a town vote as well by the
Not-
residents that would follow?
Not
Not that night.
Special town meeting after that.
Then we have to have a separate town meeting, and
Okay.
there's a time frame in which we
Board
would
of
have it.
Selectmen decides to go to that next step after the public.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
okay.
So once we have the date for the thing at our October meeting, we could probably set the town meeting, right?
Unless you decide as a board to wait until after the public hearing to do that.
Yeah, we could wait till after the public hearing.
I think we should wait till after.
Yeah, I think
That's
you're
fine.
When is the November meeting?
I don't have a calendar in front of me right now.
Unless you want to do a special meeting. 4 November? So the night before the election.
Yeah.
November 4th, okay. Okay,
All right, thank you all for your time.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. The next item is Iroquois. I'm going to give an update. I met with Iroquois, I didn't meet with Iroquois. I met with DEEP, Josh Hawley, the Chief of Staff for the Commissioner Dykes, and with Brian Shane, who's a legal attorney in their deep operations. We were supposed to meet with Emma Semino, Deputy Commissioner. She was unavailable, not able to make the meeting. I expressed, we had sent the Commissioner a letter. I expressed to both of those people the concerns that Brookfield had in that letter, and the desire of Brookfield to be listened to. They listened to what I had to say. The net that came out of it is they are in the process now of awaiting documentation from Iroquois. Iroquois has asked for an extension of time to provide some of the documentation that this DEP has requested. They believe they will be getting that documentation in the next 3 or 4 weeks. They believe they will make a final decision sometime this fall, and that decision will be in the form of a temporary approval or denial. If there is an approval by DEP, they will have a public hearing. I asked them to consider having that in Brookfield so our residents could come. They raised the point that, if they do a hearing like that, what they started in COVID, do it by Zoom, more people can participate, more residents can participate because they can do it from home. I said I'd still like to see DEP come to Brookfield and talk to our residents. I think it would be useful. We could always simul broadcast it so people could see it. They said they would consider that. A number of the issues that we raised, particularly doing the air testing, they did not believe, if I'm quoting them correctly, that the DEP has the authority to require Iroquois to do air testing. They were going to double check that, but they didn't think they had the ability to require it. Obviously, they're coming up on this approval. They're very concerned about not seeing bias towards one side or the other. I met with them for about an hour and 15 minutes. They listened to everything that we had said, and we went over all the items in our letter to them. But they were non-committal. They just were, which I expected. They clearly know our concerns now, and I think when and if they do give an approval and have that hearing, we need to have everyone, all our residents, get on, show up at that public hearing, or if they do it by Zoom, apply to be a speaker at that hearing, and that's the status right now. That's all I have. Okay. Next item is consent agenda. I would make a motion that the selectmen
I'm sorry,
approve
Can I
items.
just ask a question about that air permit?
Yeah,
When are they gonna,
they
No,
said
they-
that they believed if Iroquois gives them the information within the next few weeks, that they will be making a decision. I thought, what, by first quarter? No, they said no, in the fall. They're gonna make a decision one way or the other.
But we'll
they
get
think in the
notice
fall.
ahead of it, and they'll have to do a public hearing hearing. that
Then
we
they do a
also-
public hearing after that.
Oh, they get a temporary permit.
They get a
and then
temporary
they get
permit.
then they get a public
Yep.
hearing.
My understanding is that if they get the temporary or just the air permit, it's a go, right? There's no stopping the train.
They will have a hearing. They could still pull it back because it's a temporary approval. They give an
Okay.
approval, but then they have to have a public hearing, and after the public hearing, DEP takes all comments into consideration and then makes a final determination as to whether approve or deny.
So what is the state doing to help us?
Not much.
So we haven't heard anything back about our letter?
I met with them Friday, and I just
But that's-
described the
that's deep.
conversation I had
That's
with
not
them.
like the governor's office.
The governor's office has not responded to us. DEP has.
So are we gonna try again?
I have tried to contact again. I haven't gotten a response yet. My guess is the governor is going to let DEP run this process and not interfere in it. That's my guess. So that's the process. Not a perfect process, not one we really like, but that's what it is. And we don't have, as a town, we don't have any control over that. We can't stop them or move them. So,
Why
Is
not?
is there room for us to contact the governor again?
sure, I think we're gonna get the same response.
Well, we got no response, so.
Exactly, so I can send him another letter, right? I have no problem sending him another letter asking him to respond. I have no problem doing that. I don't think that he is going to do that, considering he hasn't done it so far. And,
Has our state elected representatives, so we've got multiple elected, we have a senator, we have 2 representatives who touch Brookfield. In fact, we have 2 senators who touch Brookfield too.
yeah,
Are they engaged at all? That would be the next lever I'd push, right? Have
Yeah,
them
that's
come
a
in
good
through-
idea.
Through the legislative support.
yeah, we can push them too, and ask them to
Ask
support
them
it.
to
That's a
go
good
with the
idea, I will
governor.
do that.
With the governor.
Well, you
Yeah.
also mentioned you have a good rapport with the lieutenant governor. What is she saying about all this?
She got us the appointment with DEEP. She did not offer to get us a meeting with the governor. Okay, that's a good idea, though. I'll ask our
I just, it's a
elected
matter of
representative.
finding
her-
every leverage you
Yeah,
can
find
get on
every
these
leverage.
things, so.
Yeah,
And we have to keep trying if it,
I mean, quite frankly, they've ducked us for 3 months.
yeah, they have, yeah. If it wasn't for Susan Bysowitz, we'd still be here, I think, unanswered.
We probably would be.
So I will go to Steve and, oh gosh,
Marty
Marty.
and
ask them
the
to,
representative who has Newtown and.
yeah, that
that's-
little section.
Huh?
Mitch.
I'll go to all 3.
Yeah.
Mitch, okay, I'll go to all 3 and ask them, I'll send them a letter saying, listen, we need help, can you push this forward, right? And advocate on our
I think
behalf.
we ought to have a sit down
Okay.
with
Oh, Eric Berkel.
Eric Berthel, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, okay. I will do that. Consent agenda, so if we can move on to that, I make a motion that the selectmen approve items A through E on the consent agenda. That is the selectmen approval for routine matters, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes, driveway bond releases, excavation bonds, employee changes. We have Cooper Whiteside, who's joined Public Works as the driver laborer, and new hire changes, Peter Meyer dispatcher, Ann McClellan, land use office administrator, Jessica DeMalto, full-time evening commission secretary, Vicky Ferrera, part-time evening commission secretary, Andrew Lyle, public works driver, Jennifer Tagelli,
Taggett.
Taggett, finance assistant, and 3 police officers, Thomas Straub, Antonio Moreno, and Jordan Cardone. Good. Do I have a second to approve the minutes, the consent agenda?
Second.
Bob seconds. Any questions, concerns, issues? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 3-0. Additional monthly agenda items, appointments. The ad hoc building police committee that we put together last Board of Selectmen meeting, I make a motion that we table that until next month while additional members are solicited. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. We have 4 people who have applied. but we need more, and we have to do the minority representation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all of them are from one party, so we
Well-
really do need to find a mix of people from
Yeah.
parties, because that's required of us.
Yep, yep.
There's some good people on that list. but
Great.
there's,
So-
but I think we
There are
need
really
to
good
see a
people.
bigger base.
Yep. So, having no further
You gotta take
business?
a motion on that. You have to take a
Oh,
vote
I
on
made,
that.
yeah, I made the motion. So I made a motion to table that till next month while we solicit more people.
And Tara seconded
Tara
it.
seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Having no further business, I hereby adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you all for
Thank you,
coming.
everybody. Thank you.